The other day I was doing a lot of changeovers when I was trying that new hitch independent tether that was thought of for the rope wrench, and I was doing a lot of switching back and forth between SRT and then DdRT and back to SRT and back and forth, and this has to do with me setting a canopy anchor. I know there's a lot of discussion about whether a canopy anchor or base anchor or basal anchor and those things, and it all depends on the situation, but this is pretty much relevant to using a canopy anchor. But the way that I set up, and the reason I started thinking about this, I was switching back and forth so many times, I thought there's really no reason for me to ever unclip from that SRT to DdRT. There's always a good reason to, and you always want to clip in with your lanyard, but nonetheless I thought I can do this without ever unclipping from my main climbing line while I'm doing that. So just want to run this past you guys for your thoughts. Maybe everybody does this already, I don't know, but this is what I was thinking of, and it seems to be a little bit safer than ever having to disconnect. But anyway, I usually prefer a canopy anchor, and so I'll take my climbing line, and with my throw line I'll set it up over the tree, and then of course tie in my alpine butterfly. That's kind of, again, my preference. So that'll be in there, and then I put on generally I'll put on a quick link. And I'm not going to tighten any of these things down, I'm just trying to demonstrate what I do. And then when I get ready to pull that up the tree, if I'm going to use a friction saver or anything else, I will clip those onto the splice eye that I've got. The friction saver, the tail with a scaffold knot will be connected to a carabiner, and then that goes up the tree to my canopy anchor. Okay, so once I have my anchor up in the tree and I have pulled the friction saver and the other carabiners and anything else I want up the tree so I don't have to haul it up the tree with me, once that's in place, then of course I'll put on my climbing system, and in this case I've got the rope wrench on there, but it can be a hitchhiker, it can be a unisender, or whatever climbing system you're using. And in this case I'll put on the rope wrench, and you guys came up with a fantastic idea for making this so easy to take on and off. And I'm still practicing with it, getting it still a little bit tight. But anyway, that just pushes in there, and that little clip goes over the top and holds it tight. And this is a pretty strong clip, a very strong clip. You don't have to worry about any kind of rotation. It's just there. So anyway, I'll ascend SRT from my canopy anchor, and once I get into position, then as a backup, always clip in with your lanyard. Okay, so you've clipped in with your lanyard, and then I just take this carabiner off, and I'll usually put this on my saddle until I decide whether I'm going to do a V-rig and go someplace else, but in the meantime that will just come off. And I've connected that on, and then my tether comes off, and again that pulls off so easy, And I'll just put that clip back in there, up over the top. Then take the rope wrench off, and I usually take that and put that on my saddle like that so I don't lose it. So that's clipped onto my saddle, and then you are basically SRT, but it's just a matter at this point of taking some of the weight off of the, whether you're standing on a branch, or if you're not standing on the branch, then you can hook your lanyard up to the center connection point and lift yourself up. But just take the quick link off. Again, that'll go on my belt. Disconnect, untie the Alpine butterfly, and there I am on my system. So I never unclipped anything, and that's probably obvious to you guys, but I didn't figure it out until I started doing a lot of the changeover. Okay, in the next scenario, in the case of using a friction saver, a ring-to-ring friction saver, which I often like to use for many reasons, which you guys know, and I always put the small ring on the left and the larger ring on the right, just out of consistency, so that sometimes if it's way up in the tree and it's got dark on me or something, I don't have to be able to see up there to see which way it's going to come out. But again, let's say I've ascended SRT and I've reached my tie-in point, and again, take your lanyard and clip in. Once I've done that, then I set the friction saver. I set the friction saver at my tie-in point, and again, I've got the tail of my climbing line accessible. And I'll take that off and I'll put that on my lanyard, deciding whether I'm going to make a V-rig and go somewhere else. Until I do that, then what I do is I take the carabiner out, and when you bring this up over the top, and I'm still tied in, I haven't changed anything as far as that goes. This feeds through my friction saver, still up over the tie-in point, and I'll put the carabiner back on. Then I'll take off my detachable tether. I'm still tied in, and I'm still being supported by the friction hitch. So this can come off. That comes off, and again, this clip goes together so easy, and that just goes back on my saddle, and I clip in there. Now I'm back to a DdRT, my saddle hanging there, and I'll stand up on a branch or whatever, but I'm still supported by my quick link and the Alpine butterfly. I have not disconnected anything. My friction hitch has always been supporting me at that point. All I have to do is either stand on a limb or be able to stand on my, lift myself up with my lanyard and untie and disconnect the quick link and untie the Alpine butterfly. And again, that goes on my saddle. I might have to snug that up a little bit, but there there I'm right back into a friction saver and DdRT system. And again, I never took anything off of the branch. I never disconnected from that. The worst thing that could have happened is, I guess you could take a sit for about a foot or a foot and a half if somehow you were able to undo that quick link and somehow be able to undo that butterfly, or you undid it and then you sat down, but you'd still have your lanyard. So, but anyway, you're never really untied, so you don't have to worry about not having one of your carabiner correctly connected or something like that, which could lead to a fall. Nothing here could lead to a fall. Another nice thing about connecting the tail of your climbing line to that friction saver and everything else that gets pulled up the tree is that you can have that with you, and if you wanted, you could have your second climbing system for your V-rig already attached to the line as it's hanging there. In other words, it would have also been pulled up with the friction saver. So once I get into the tree and I'm there and I wanted to go someplace else, then you get your various methods. You get your climbing line out over to another tree, over to the other branch, or however you're gonna go, and clip in, and there you have your V-rig and you're ready to go. If I was doing this for real, I'd probably have my VT on this side, so it's a little bit further from that knot. But I do like to use the center hole there, and it gives a little more distance as it pulls down. It gives a reasonable distance between my scaffold knot and the friction hitch, because you don't want those to get tied up. But and sometimes the VT extends a little further down your climbing line, so it doesn't resist. And I don't have a spliced eye on this end of my line, because that makes it really hard to get the leather, especially the Caterpillar cambium savers on there, so I leave that like that, but I'm careful not to get that interfering with the knot. Then I usually have a swivel or something right here. I'll connect that to a swivel so that I'm free to move. Okay, and here's the setup you were talking about with having the becket similar to what I have on my CE lanyard on the hitch climber, which is great also, but I find sometimes if I'm doing what I was talking about before and I want to set up like a V-rig, I can set up a V-rig with my hitch climber using the becket and the swaybish. And in this case, I've also put a Prusik on here to make that swaybish self-tending. So the way I get around the tree is I'll put a Pantene down here and I kind of pedal my way over to the other tree or the other branch or wherever I'm going, and of course pushing down on the Pantene pulls me over. Or you can pull on the rope, or however you're going to get over, but that's how I have that set up with the becket. And the form of the swaybish works pretty well with the orientation of the carabiner on that. Okay, I don't know if this will be a very good video or how that's going to come out. I'll be interested to see what comments you guys have, or suggestions, recommendations, or any more ideas. But using this fantastic tether with that quick pin is just so cool. Look how easy that comes off. And this was a eye-to-eye Prusik, but you know, you could actually do this pretty cheaply, because if you had, I haven't been climbing enough to have even worn out a Prusik yet, but if you had a worn Prusik that you weren't real confident with as far as life support, there still wouldn't be any reason you couldn't use it in this situation, because this is not life support. And you could wrap it with the shrink wrap like I've done here, and put your pins on there, and you could have yourself a pretty nice tether for, the pin was $1.99, and a tether that you were going to throw away, or a Prusik that you were going to throw away, and some shrink wrap. You could have yourself a pretty nice stiff tether for very little money. But I just I think you guys really, and again, I don't know, it just doesn't seem fair that I went to the hardware store, put this together in a matter of minutes. I was thinking I was going to be going down to the garage and milling and cutting and shaping and doing all the work that you guys put into it. It's just like you guys did all the work and I reaped the benefits. But that's okay. It works for me. So thanks. All right. See ya.